Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept the humble obeisances of Glorious Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. Our glorious and guest speaker for today, of course, as always, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu for a last minute step in. So, by Sri Guru Krishna's grace, Prabhuji has been rendering this type of service for a very long time, for so many times. So we're very grateful and appreciative that you render this service in this beautiful way, even though it's quite uncomfortable, but you still do it with grace. So without wasting much time, we're going to put the verse on the screen, and Prabhuji, you may start speaking. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraichavam Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Apraisu Apadrisu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God who is praised by transcendental song is established as an irrevocable fact. So we welcome the devotees to this wonderful moment of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll be reading from 3rd Canto, chapter 13, text number 12. Just a minute, let me disconnect one of these. Param Sushrushanam Mahayam Syat Prajarashaya Nripa Bhagavam Te Prajap Altoho Rishikesho Nutu Syati Param Sushrushanam Mahayam Syat Prajarashaya Nripa Bhagavam Te Prajap Altoho Rishikesho Nutu Syati. Word for word translation. Param, the greatest. Susru Sanaham, devotional service. Mahayam, unto me. Siat should be. Prajaha, the living entities born in the material world. Rakshayaha, by saving them from being spoiled. Niripaha, O king. Bhagavan, the personality of God, Te, with you. Praja Bharatu, with the protector of the living beings. Rishkeshaha, the Lord of the senses. Anutus Chyati is satisfied. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Ilabai Charanaravinda A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Jagat Guru Sedwa Bhiyo Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O king, if you can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the master of the senses will be very pleased with you. What? Sorry. The whole administrative system is arranged for the purpose of going back home, back to Godhead. Brahma is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Manu is the representative of Brahma. Similarly, all other kings on different planets, the law book for the which directs all activities towards the transcendental service of the Lord. Every king, therefore, must know that his responsibility in administration is not merely to exact taxes from the citizens, but to see personally that the citizens under him are being trained in Vishnu worship. Everyone must be educated in Vishnu worship and engage in the devotional service of Rishikesh, the owner of the senses. The conditioned souls are meant not to satisfy the material senses, but to satisfy the senses of Rishikesh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the purpose of the complete administrative system. One who knows this secret, as disclosed here in the version of Brahma, is the perfect administrative head. One who does not know this is a show bottle administrator. By training the citizens in the devotional service of the Lord, the head of the state can be free in his responsibility. Otherwise, he will fail in the onerous duty entrusted to him and thus be punishable by the supreme authority. There is no alternative in the discharge of administrative duties. Hare Krishna. Omagyanam timirandasya gyanam gyanam shalakaya Shakshu militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandyam Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padam Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamcha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagragunatam Sadhanu Raghunatam Samsajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sadhana Lalita Sri Vishya Kavitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Nari Priye Vashap Panchakarpataru Ubhyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Ivascha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripatam Pandeshri Guru Dinatarina Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vindai Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Tantra Samad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So once again, the verse says, O King, if you give proper protection to the living entities, to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the Master of the Senses will be very pleased with you. Hare Krishna. When I come to this wonderful opportunity of rendering service, I just feel so ecstatic. Why? Because when we look at the verse that we're reading today, Lord Brahma is talking to the progenitor of mankind, Manu, and is addressing him as O King. And as I was just looking at this text as we started reading now, of course, as you all know, this is an impromptu rendering of service. But Srila Prabhupada's purport is just very distinctively instructive, as usual, because in the previous verse to this verse, Lord Brahma was telling King Manu, he said that since you are my very obedient son, he's giving instruction. He started the sentence by, since you are my very obedient son. And I'm driving the inspiration for discussing this verse we are reading today from that statement of Brahma. Each and every one of us are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of God, as himself has said. But by we are all children of Srila Prabhupada. That's why we call Prabhupada Nugas. And as obedient servant of Srila Prabhupada, the wondrous, Prabhupada uses one English word in the purport of the text we are reading, wondrous. As wondrous sons of Srila Prabhupada, our responsibility and duty is to always be prepared. And even when I feel I'm not qualified in any capacity, sometimes when this opportunity comes to serve, I want to test how much I'm preparing myself. Because the reality is this, that each and every one of us have an apportioned limited period of time in this body. For one who has taken birth, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, death is certain. And in the scope of whatever we're doing in this material body, whatever our goal, whatever our intention, whatever our desire is, one thing that is constant is that we're going to quit our body. And in the course of our endeavor to become a devotee, if we don't become an obedient son of Srila Prabhupada, then there is a challenge. So I constantly remind myself of this, and I try as much as possible. This morning I was listening to one of Srila Prabhupada's lecture online. Prabhupada was speaking about how a devotee should see every challenge as an opportunity, as the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the point is that the question might be that we're not Kunkunti. Kunkunti could do that easily, but we're not Kunkunti. So if we're not Kunkunti, how can we see challenges? 2 days ago, I was giving a speech at one World Interfaith Harmony, World International Day of Peace, United Nations International Day of Peace. I was giving a speech on peace as an everyday endeavor of what everyone has to practice. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, about some few days ago, actually it was on Sunday, but it has been a whole activity since last week. And I had opportunity to speak at different levels from different states on International Day of Peace as set aside by United Nations. So in one of these speeches I was giving, and I was telling the audience that what is the most important tool that we can apply to derive peace? And everybody, I made it a conversation. I made it an open conversation, even though I was supposed to be the guest speaker, and I was asking openly, and everybody was giving different opinions of what they think should be a daily practice of one who wants to be peaceful. So then I quoted Bhagavad Gita 266. I said, one who is not connected to God in God conscious and transcendental knowledge, it cannot be happy. And one who's not happy, how then can he become peaceful? So then I explained that to be constantly be in connection with God, which is the source of happiness, which in turn is the source of peace, one has to be always prepared. So as I was speaking at the beginning of this discussion this afternoon, when Sadiq was talking, we were discussing about maybe playing tape and all of that. Then the thought came, okay, maybe I have to speak. And I was thinking, reflecting on what I had in Srila Prabhupada's lecture this morning, that a devotee of the Lord, or one who is aspiring to be devotee of the Lord, each and every one of us are aspiring to be like the gopis of Vrindavan. But this doesn't come. Most often times, we have seen in various scriptures how most of the times those who have become outstanding in the path of devotion never prepared to become a pure devotee. They just spontaneously engage in activities of service to the Supreme Lord, and they got the best mercy of the Lord. So in this verse we're talking about today, Lord Brahma is speaking. The duties of a king. And I'm inspired to first talk about the duty of each and every one who is embodied. Because each and every one of us are a leader in one capacity. In each and every of our body, there are thousands of living entities living inside. So most often times when we talk about leadership, what first comes to mind most often times is that we start thinking of the political leaderships. We think of the temple leaderships. We think of institutional leaderships. But we never most often times think of ourselves as leaders. Because in our body, there are so many living entities that are living in our body. And as it is mentioned here, it is the responsibility of an ideal leader to be able to liberate all those who are his subjects. And what is the duty of a leader in this respect? To give those who are his subject liberation. Srila Prabhupada gave us the 4 principles of freedom. And when we look at ourselves, when we look at our body that has been given to us, and look at the living entities that are living in this body, to what extent? Because that is the beginning. The beginning is that for us to liberate ourselves, we have to become an obedient servant of the Lord. And to become an obedient servant of the Lord, we have to fully, properly execute the duties, responsibility that is invested upon us. And to be able to do that, one has to be consciously 24/7, always remembering Krishna. But to remember Krishna is not an easy task. And to remember Krishna constantly, one has to come into the mood of the fact that one is a servant of the servant. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving an example of the law book for entire man, the book of Manu, the law book of Manu. And when we study Manu Samhita,
it is almost impossible to follow most of the regulations that are there in this age. When I was speaking recently, and I was expressing, the first responsibility of a leader is to make sure that he gives security and protection to those who are under him. Well, what is this security and protection? It is to give Krishna consciousness. But how can one give Krishna consciousness when he himself is not Krishna conscious? Srila Prabhupada has given 4 basic principles of freedom. And when we all take initiation, or we aspire to take initiation, we hear these 4 regulative principles. And these 4 regulative principles are the beginning of our being able to give protection to those who are under us. Oftentimes, when we think about leadership, leadership begins when we look at externally those who are ruling over us. But no one, Lord Brahma here is talking to Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. You are an obedient king, son. Why? Because he follows the instructions of his father. And the question is that you, me, and everyone listening, how much do we consider ourselves to be classified in that category of an obedient son? Because oftentimes as preachers, we want to speak, we want to talk, we want to correct, we want to give reproach. But how much do I, as an individual, have become an obedient son? So much so that, because no one can please Krishna unless he pleases the spiritual master. And to please the spiritual master, the most fundamental basic principle is that one has to follow the 4 regulative principles of freedom. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. And some of us will say, okay, but we're following this. And to what degree do we follow? I was sharing recently. I started having some challenges in my life. Things weren't going the way I was going, expecting in some way. And I was asking several questions. But one amazing thing that I experienced was that none of the advices that I was getting, even from God brother, or God sisters, or God friend, material friend, or all that, were not resonating, wasn't giving me some satisfaction. Then I started checking online. I started listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture. And I found out that the quality of my japa compared to when I started chanting was completely different. I was giving an interview to ISKCON News recently, and I was reflecting. When I took to the Krishna consciousness, I've never met devotees. I had 2 boxes. Two match boxes. One is containing 116 sticks of matches. The other box has 108 stick of matches, and the other one has 16 match stick. So, and I will use the 116 to be counting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. I'll put it down. Then I'll count 1 after it completes the circle of 116. That's how I started chanting. And in those days, I remember that when I started, it took me almost about 30 minutes to even chant 1 round. So I would go to the beach. I spent almost a year of my life not having direct association with devotees in devotional practice. So I would go to the beach. And because I was a prophet in my pre-Krishna conscious life, so I was used to doing so long hours of prayers. So I would go there, and to chant 16 rounds would take me almost like a whole day. But I was determined I was doing that. Then as a time passes by, I realizes that my chanting, I become a little bit used to the chanting. It starts reducing its times, and it reduces to 20 minutes. At some point in time, it came to 15 minutes for chanting one round. And at a point in time, it came to 8 minutes for chanting one round. So I listened to one of the lectures given by one of our gurus one time, and he said, if your japa is less than 5 minutes, then you're not chanting complete numbers of the rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And I started using that as a basis. That year I was studying Harinam Chintamani in that series of lectures. And so for some years, I started looking at myself chanting. So for several years, my chanting was between 5 to 6 minutes. And that was continuously for several years. And at a point in time, in recent time, of course, I'm struggling because I have so many responsibilities, little time, not much support. So I realized that my japa came to 3.5 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes. And I was wondering what is happening. Then I went online. Then I saw this 16-round japa of Srila Prabhupada and I took it. And when I started following that, I realized my japa came back to what it used to be before. And I realized, oh, something has gone wrong. This is what is called self-leadership, because one cannot teach when it does not himself or herself do a self-reflections on what he does. No one can effectively lead. Swayam Bhuva Manu here is called an obedient son because he was obedient to Lord Brahma. And because of his obedience, Lord Brahma gave him responsibility. Just like Lord Brahma instructed Swayam Bhuva Manu, he instructed Daksha. But Daksha was the opposite. He disobeyed the instructions of Lord Brahma. And after going so many mistakes upon mistakes, committing many and many aparat, he ended up having a goat head. And most of us, although we are in devotional garb, we are in dhoti, saris, tilak, but some of us have developed a goat head in Krishna consciousness. It's quite unfortunate because when you look at sometimes a devotee, the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he relates with other devotees, then you start wondering, is this a devotee? He has become Daksha. Because he has become a disobedient son of his own spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada said, if given 18 days, he can turn the whole of this universe, this whole of this planet, into Krishna consciousness. And when we look at the responsibility that we're given as leaders, Sadhya Prabhu says sometimes ago, he said, when I joined newly Krishna consciousness in the first 2-3 years, I will always refer to the leaders of ISKCON. And today, when I look back, I will say, but anyone calls me and they say, senior devotees. And I'm seeing myself as a senior devotee, and I'm wondering, I'm looking back at those days when I was in your junior devotees, and I was calling those senior devotees. The reality is that as the days count, each and every one of us has an onerous leadership responsibility on our shoulder. And the primary responsibility as a leader is that how much are we satisfied that when we drop and sleep now and not wake up, we'll be able to liberate the living entities in our body. One who is consciously thinking like this is one who is in the full step of Swayam Bhuva Manu. Swayam Bhuva Manu was given the same instruction as was given to Daksha. Just like each and every one of us are given the same instruction by the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada gave us same instructions. But when we look at our ISKCON movement, and when we look at our preachings, then we can tell how much of a leader we have. And our scriptures tell us, Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, Yat asharati stars, to start evataro jana. Unless leaders lead by examples, the followers will become a nonsense. And whatever we are seeing in this ISKCON movement is a reflection of our individual and collective leadership. Our leadership is expressed in how I had a conversation with one organization, HWPL, recently, and they were studying the life of great spiritual leaders. And they said, oh, you have a lot of years of spiritual experience. And they were talking, and the questionnaire asked me a particular question. He said, what is one thing that you see as a challenge in your life of a spiritual journey? And I expressed to that interviewer, I said, well, maybe one thing I will think about is that maybe in my next life, I would not want to become a grillmaster. He said, what is that? I said, I would not want to become a householder. I don't want to become a married man. And he said, why? Do you have a divorce experience? I said, no, I'm still with my wife. I have wonderful, beautiful 6 children, but I'm not sure whether I can take them back home, back to Godhead. And so each and every day when I wake up, I'm lamenting about this. And I'm thinking, why do I become a father? Why do I become a husband? Obviously, there is no going back home to Godhead for me, because until and when I'm able to make these people go back home, back to Godhead, I have nowhere to go near the kingdom of God. So even though I'm classified, I'm considered a very great spiritual teacher, I said I'm feeling that I'm not qualified to go there yet. Why? Because I cannot convincingly sell myself the external ones I'm seeing, not to talk of the ones inside of me that are growing inside my body in different names, as worm and whatever names you give to them, germs and whatever microbes, whatever name you give to those living inside my body. I said, even leaving those one aside, those who are externally, I'm not convinced within myself that I can take them back home, back to God in this lifetime. So I've not acted enough. And that is what the leadership is. So young Buba Manu is glorified by his father, because his father was confident. He said, my dear son, because you are an obedient son, you have obeyed my instructions. Your brother did not. And so therefore, I'm putting on you the responsibility. Oh, king, if you can give proper protection to living entities in the material world, that will be the best service for me. And that is what leadership is all about, to give protection. So when I was in Kaduna last weekend, the governor was being given a Champion of Peace award, and I had an opportunity. Then I came when he was giving the award, and I came forward and I shared that on my social media handle. So I went to the front and I took Bhagavad Gita and I said to him, I said, you're such a wonderful leader. Your people are so proud of you. You're doing a lot of work of protection. Before you came on board, there was no day that there is no massive records of kidnappings and all of that is going on in the state. And because this has gone down to its astronomical level, your people are so appreciative, and they are giving you a champion of peace award. I said, but this book I'm presenting to you, the Bhagavad Gita, I'm giving it to you. Study this book, because it is one thing to protect them from the Boko Haram, from the kidnappers, from the attackers, from the S-men. I said, but one greater responsibility you have is that all of those who call themselves your subject here, you need to take them back to God. I said, that is the purpose why I'm quoting that verse. One who is not connected to God in transcendental nature cannot derive happiness. And if he does not have happiness, how then can he have peace? I said, that is the verdict of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm giving you this Bhagavad Gita. Please study it. And when you study it, you will understand what leadership entails. But it is one thing to say this. It is one thing to give the leaders opportunity. When we look at the world, altogether. The world is going through a whole lot of challenges. And it is so shameful sometimes. When we look at the year 1966 to 1977, when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet preaching in the West and the whole world, recent documentary. There was a documentary recently, and it was explaining that Roti was sharing how those periods in the scope of the last century has been the most peaceful time in the last centuries. So as devotees, we are all individually leaders who are given so much of empowerment. Because to be initiated, to be given the name DAS, it's not just an ordinary thing. That Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. Everyone must be educated in Vishnu worship and engage in the devotion service of Rishikesha, the owner of the senses. The conditions so are meant to satisfy their material senses, but to satisfy the senses of Rishikesha, the Supreme Personality of God. They're not meant to satisfy their senses. This is the purpose of the complete administrative system. One who knows this secret, as disclosed here in the version of Brahman, is the perfect administrative head. So we all seek to see powerful administrative heads in our temples, in our states, in our country, in our planet. But let us reflect. How much am I a leader to those living entities that are my subjects in my body? If I collapse now and I do not wake up and I'm certified dead by medical arrangement, of course, nobody dies. The living entity never dies. That is what Bhagavad Gita told us. But when I quit this body, the term of reference that I got when I took this material body in business terms, when people are given responsibility of positions, there's something, the TOR, time of reference of what he's supposed to do. In each and every one of us, we're given a time of reference when we took this material body. And Lord Brahma is telling us here, the Prabhupada is explaining it in the purport, that the purpose behind all of this, the senses that we're given, the eyes, the tongue, the nose, the ears, the arm, the legs, they are all senses given by Rishikesha for the purpose of pleasing Rishikesha, Rishikena. It is meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality, and that is where leadership starts from. One cannot demand for leadership when himself is not a leader, because you can get what you don't have. Vidura, as we start reading from this, when you look at the beginning of this chapter, Maitreya Muni was, Sukadev Goswami, he was recounting, Sukadev Goswami was telling, he said, because Vidura was such a very outstanding, when we look at the first 3 verses of this chapter, Vidura was, Sukadev Goswami was selling. Sukadev Goswami said, "O king, after airing all of these most virtuous topics from said Maitreya, Vidura inquired further on the topics of the Supreme Personality of God, which are adored to hear." And then in the text note, he said, "O best of virtuous, the original king Manu was a great devotee of the personality of God." And Sukadev Goswami was explaining that because in the text number 5, he said, Sukadev Goswami said, the personality of God, Sri Krishna, was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura because Vidura was a very meek and gentle. The said Maitreya was very pleased with Vidura's word, and being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. The Lord will speak to me. He will speak to you. He will speak to any one of us. If we develop this quality of Vidura, in other words, Vidura fulfilled the purpose of his body as a leader of what? The senses that was given to. The senses, the tongue, the ears of Vidura. Lord Krishna placed his lotus transcendental feet on his body because Vidura fulfilled. So you and I, what we need to do is that, because we don't get what we don't have. Vidura is getting all of these transcendental blissful nectarian subject matter, because the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God himself, is personally pleased with him, and Matrimony, the great sage, was so pleased with him because of his quality. The quality of who we are is what determines the quality of what we attract to ourselves. We all know this. We give it as a philosophy. The leadership that is in any society is a cumulative consciousness of the living entities that are in that environment. One doesn't get a leader of a particular kind unless himself, he deserves that. And we can talk about challenges. We can talk about difficulties. We can talk about not having a proper environment. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has defeated that argument. He said, wherever you go, wherever you be, if there is no one who is a guru, you become the guru. That is the mandate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Become the guru and teach Krishna consciousness. In his Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, one Brahmin, Sudama, Brahmana, was a Grihastha. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was his associate, and now blissful he wanted to abandon his household life and follow. If you really have understood my teachings and you are very much attracted, then stay in your village and teach them. So we have to become the leader we desire to see. That is what this verse is talking about. Lord Brahma here is talking to Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu, such a great son, is getting his instruction. And he said, when the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned soul, certainly the master of the senses will be very pleased with you. If you become a perfect protector of the living entities that are inside our world, inside our body, then Lord Krishna will become pleased with us, and all good fortune will manifest in our individual lives. A few days ago, there's a celebration of 16 years of Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj of developing Eco Village. And there was a conversation online. And in one of the LinkedIn conversations, and I was chatting Maharaj, and I was telling Maharaj, I said, Maharaj, this is not, you have said it very, very perfectly. It is not because you are very special or you're powerful than other God or any other of your God brothers. He said it's because you are a perfect example of a disciple. I said, if there's anything glorious about you, Maharaj, it's because you showed yourself to be a perfect example of what your spiritual master teaches. And we all can become that. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is telling us in the purport, that as Lord Brahma is talking to Swayambhuva Manu here about the purpose and the duties of a leader, we should see leadership from that perspective. We should know this secret of becoming an attraction of the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To attract the Supreme Personality of God is not very difficult. Krishna is not that far. Sometimes when we talk about God, we talk about the Supreme Being. Sometimes it's so far away from us. But Krishna is not that far. Krishna is right here. He's just right in front of us. And he's willing to manifest himself in whichever way we want it to be. He's just waiting for us to be a perfect son, like Swayambhuva Manu, who was an obedient son of his father. And if we become an obedient son of our father, then our life becomes a successful one. Because Krishna will become pleased, like Krishna was pleased with Vidura. And his spiritual teacher, Matrimony, will become pleased with him. And he will reveal confidential secret of the revealed scriptures to him. That's the whole essence of what Krishna told Arjuna. Believe. Paripati na paripati na seva. Upadesi antite kiana kenina patwa dakshina. He will reveal the most confidential secret to you. And Lord Brahma is revealing it here, and Srila Prabhupada is revealing it here in this purport. That if one knows this secret, then it becomes easy. Krishna will manifest himself to you. Hare Krishna. So I would like to stop here. If there are questions or comments, contributions or corrections, it is welcome. Thank you very much for this opportunity to serve. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's great, Salika Prabhu. Very beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing what you just shared with us. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your questions or share your reflections. For some reason, I wouldn't say for some reason, because that has been like the theme of the basis under discussion, at least for the whole of this week. So it is beautiful to hear your sentiment, but at the same time, it is frustrating. It says that we are saying that maybe in our next life, we do not want to become grihastas, because in this life, we doubt if we are ever going to be able to liberate our subjects or dependents, which is actually a very serious consideration. And if one has such serious consideration, I think 50% of its problems are solved, because some people do not even consider that at all, that it is their responsibility to liberate their dependents or subjects. So thinking about it in itself is a wonderful thing. But here we are, we've been discussing that one may try as much as he can, but the dependents also have their independence, and they want to do their own things, and they cannot be forced. So the conclusion, as I understand it from the discussions we've been having here, is that as long as one is sincerely trying his best to give the best to his dependents and subjects, if they do not follow, the Lord knows that the leader, the father, the king tried his best, and the dependents just didn't follow. What is your view on this understanding or approach, that as long as one has been able to lead the horse to the riverside and the horse refuses to drink the water, you cannot be accused of keeping the horse thirsty and therefore dying?
Thank you very much, Sadi. This is a beautiful question. These questions have been asked several times. And when these questions comes up, the first thing that comes to mind is, let us start from Srila Prabhupada, our own Vandacharya. How many children does Srila Prabhupada have? How many of them took to the path of Krishna consciousness? His wife was even completely openly averse to his Krishna conscious life. So then, do we say Srila Prabhupada is a failure? No, he is not. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's father, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he had 13 children. The 13th child, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, was the outstanding one that actually took there. So many of his sons. Let us even go further. The Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Advaita Acharya, his children, according to Ishitaya Lila, not all of them follow the path. But that does not give you the excuse. The mood of a devotee is that he should always see himself as falling and not doing enough to liberate. That is the consciousness of a leader, because his duty, primary duty, is to give those protection to those who are under him. So the consciousness should be that, oh, I'm so falling that I'm not able to do my responsibility. One who is in that consciousness is sincerely trying. Is not guilty, or is not limited to conditional life because of the subjects that he has, because he has fulfilled his duty. But to become a father and not be conscious, the word used in the verse we're treating is protection. And what is protection? Protection means giving Krishna consciousness, from what explained in the purport. One has to be sure that he has done that effectively. In the Bible, in the book of Exodus, it is said the son of the father will be upon the generation of the generation of the generation of his children. But in Jeremiah, it was refuted that each and every one will carry his own sin. No, the father will not be. But one must fulfill his duty. So young Buva Manu here is considered to be an obedient, perfect son, because he fulfills his own responsibility. So when we become a father, our primary duty is to do everything within our position, our capacity to give Krishna consciousness. Now, the result is not in our hands. But we have to be satisfied that, have I done the right thing? When you look at the gopis, when you look at the Goswamis, they are constantly lamenting. Srila Bhakti Vinod wrote a particular song. He said, I will break my head on the rock. That should be the mood of a devotee. So that is not me. Personally, this mood does not come to me newly. I was born in a polygamous family. And when I saw what I saw when I was growing up, I vowed I wasn't going to get married. But something led to that, due to some pressure. At age 23, 24, I decided to get engaged, because I said I will not start marital responsibility, just to satisfy my parents. And then I got into Krishna consciousness 3 years after. When I did my introduction, I told my wife, for some spiritual reason, we will not go to do this thing that my husband and wife do. We will not bring children to this world. Give me some time. Give me a space of 4 years, 1986 to 1990. That was my promise with my wife. And then in 1989, a year before the 4 years completed, I got opportunity to get in contact with Krishna consciousness. So I decided to do an escape it. And I was going to run away, and actually ran away. I joined the temple and I started brahmacharya life. But my spiritual master called me 3 years after. He said, who told you that married life is a distraction in Krishna consciousness? And he started giving examples from the scriptures. He said, even our own founder, Srila Prabhupada, is a grihasta. You're given responsibility. Your primary duty, it is not about being a brahmachari, a sannyasi, a grihasta, or a sadhu, or whatever. It is about fulfilling the responsibility, duties that you have yourself. And Lord Krishna said it in the Bhagavad Gita. It is better to do your duty with imperfection than to take another person's responsibility. Yesterday, we were talking about Varnashram. And one of the duties of Varnashram is that one to ultimately rise and rise and rise and come to the plural form of a sannyasi. Yeah, that is wonderful. One should become a sannyasi, but that is not the goal. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Ramananda Rai, this is not the goal. It's just a systematic guide. So, becoming a sannyasi, becoming a brahmachari is not the goal. There are processes that helps to elevate, to accelerate the process of spiritual growth, but they're not the goal. So if one start thinking them as the goal, and forgets the purpose behind them, then he loses it all. So when we lament, being in household life, when we lament, even those, the gopis, they're lamenting, constantly lamentation. This is the mode of a devotee. And our duty should be that at whatever Krishna has given me, the senses, the mind, the tongue, the legs, the hand, the nose, everything, how effectively have I used it in trying to promote the cause of Krishna consciousness in my personal life and the subjects under me? And if we can tick and say, yes, we've done what we are not supposed to do, then Krishna will become pleased with us, as the Prabhupada promises in this purport. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, yes, yes. So beautiful. Thank you so much. It's actually doubly beautiful because sometimes you ask a question and you get an answer. The answer is the right answer, but it's not what you want to hear. And sometimes you get an answer that is what you want to hear. So this answer is what I wanted to hear. So it makes it doubly wonderful. So thank you so much. And personally, I'm grateful to Guru and Krishna and devotees that in this particular lifetime, I've come in contact with these precious teachings. And even though I'm not practicing it as much as I possibly should or can, but I'm still grateful. And I'm praying that if even I cannot increase it, I should not decrease it. So that's my prayer. And of course, this also can be enhanced by the prayers and the wishes of the Vaishnava devotees. So this is my wish and humble request to the devotees to pray for me. And of course, to pray for each other, because we all want to see each other do well. So thank you for sharing what you shared. You were talking about leadership, and of course, we know our beloved Guru Dev Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj led by example how a leader should lead his people. And therefore, he wrote 2 books on that subject matter, leadership. And it was titled Leadership for an Age of Higher Consciousness, which Madam Travinda so graciously shared. Not the entire book, though, but the back cover, just to remind us. So Gurudev taught us a true leader is that of a servant leader. You are a leader, but you serve the people. You don't want to be served. And I've come across a few leaders who do that. And there are yet many leaders who are never, the thought of servant has never crossed their mind. All they see is come, serve, come, serve. They are not prepared to serve. But we all can learn that there is more blessing in giving than receiving. So I would like to end here and see if other devotees have something to ask or to share. Please, you may do that. Before we bring this to a close, please, if you have something, please share. Hare Krishna. Well, today is the 26th day of September. It's the last Friday in the month of September. Next week Friday will be the first Friday in October. And on that day, we're going to have a very special, we've been saying this a couple of times in our meetings this week, we're going to have a special meeting here, trying to honor a great Vaishnavi who left us in a very short time in terms of biology life, in terms of this body. But she was so amazing. And so some of us did not know her in person, but we're going to be given the opportunity to hear from those who knew her, served with her, and also share with us her life during the tribulations and how she ended her life. So we have very, very wonderful devotees lined up. I think this will be like the first of such meetings on this platform where we have such great caliber of devotees coming together in one place, glorifying this great soul. So we encourage devotees to plan ahead and try to be here to partake in this glorious encounter of honoring Her Grace Ladini Devi. We are going to start 1 hour earlier of our regular times. So which means the very time this class started, we come here 1 hour earlier because we're trying to make it a little bit convenient for those devotees in India. If we start our regular time, it's going to be 8:30 p.m. And most of them may not be able to stay longer to hear other sharings. So to accommodate them and other reasons, we're going to start 1 hour earlier. So my time will be 10 instead of 11. Your time may be 2 instead of 3, or maybe 3 instead of 4. So keep that in mind. Of course, we'll try to remind the devotees, but that is one of the opportunities we have, several of them, to get the association of great devotees and also hear the pastimes of great devotees and try to learn their deeds in our own lives. Anyone else with something to ask or to share before we bring this to a final closure? Hare Krishna to you all. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, Salika Prabhu, in fact,
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Shri Govinda Prabhu. But Salika, I was going to say that I am nobody, but I always pray to, I wouldn't say always, I'll be lying. But from time to time, I pray to Guru Hare Krishna to give you more energy, more strength, more wisdom, and more opportunities to render these services you render so beautifully. It's amazing how in such an impromptu state, you still were able to speak the way you spoke. So thank you so much. Shri Govinda Prabhu, please. I'm sorry cutting you off. Please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
No problem. Thank you very much. Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to you, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. And thank you for this powerful presentation. As always, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you spoke nicely about the duty of a father, that a father, one should not become a father if he cannot liberate his dependents. You see, it is also said in the scriptures that a son duty is to liberate the father. I would like you to speak a little bit about, this is a Kali Yoga. We are in Kali Yoga. And the children of this age are completely different from the children of Satya Yoga and other yogas. The children of this age can physically disrespect the parents. They can physically abuse the parents. The children of this age think that they know even better than the parents do. So what is the fate of the children who are disrespectful or disobedient to the parents? I would like you to speak a little bit about that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much,
Hare Krishna.
for the beautiful questions. I was just trying to repeat what I've heard. It is not my word that one should not become a father, a mother, a teacher, a head of government, a king, a nurse, if he is not able to liberate his subject. But I understand the back end of where you're coming from. Kali Yuga is such a deadly place, deadly age, that it's almost difficult to find a qualified human being in this age. When you look at the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the chapter 2 of the 12th canto, and when you read all of the qualities of the living entities that are born in this age, one will not be surprised with the kind of entities that he sees, because to produce a wanted progeny, or that is ideal human beings, like Swayambhuva Manu, who was a pleasure to his own father, Lord Brahma, is almost impossible in Kali Yuga. And this is also not new, because Daksha, although could not disobey his father in giving his daughter to Lord Shiva for marriage, but he acted so whimsically. So meaning that this whimsical behavior of children in Kali Yuga did not start now. Daksha was an example of that to Lord Brahma. So how do we relate to these unwanted children that populates this age and create so much of nuisance in the name of his son? Actually, in the scriptures, it is said there are two similar words, urine, putra. The word putra is used. It could be urine, or it could be a child. So these children born in this age are not accidental children, because they are born by the people who are also children of the same nature. But how do we relate to it? When we look at the life of Srila Prabhupada, we have a perfect example of how to relate. Of course, Srila Prabhupada's children were not as what you would describe with the children in our own time, or the children of Srila Bhakti Thakur. But as the age advances, we will see continuously more and more children who are degraded because of the nature of the living entities in this age. So how do we relate to them? How do we manage this? My simple one cent suggestion will be focus on doing what Srila Prabhupada did. Focus on what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did. And what are these acharyas? What did they do? They simply fulfill their duties as a father and allow the children, their own children, to do and fulfill their own karma or their own written script in their own lives. So my little experience, my little knowledge is that if we as a father give birth to children, understanding that to give birth to a child means that it's a responsibility. If we have that consciousness in our own self, not based on sense gratification, that we're bringing forth children to this world, it's a responsibility. And we try our utmost best to follow in the footsteps of the acharyas as written in the scriptures and as we see in the practical life of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and great other leaders, acharyas in our discipleship sections. Then Krishna will take care of the remaining situation. Because the reality is that one cannot, like in English saying, you can take the horse to the river, but you can't force the horse to drink. And Krishna himself never forces anyone. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, oh no, chapter 3, sorry. Trying to remember that part. In chapter 3, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, one should not disturb someone, people who do not align with the instructions of the scriptures. The free will is there. Thank you, Mother Mitravrinda, for the sharing. So the individual have his own responsibility. Those souls in the form of a son. I was reading something recently. Actually, the way to see this is that our child, our wife, our friends, and all those who come in contact with in our life, we should understand that they are not accidents. No child, no wife is an accident in our lives. They are a result of certain things that we have carried over from our previous lives. So these days, and that was my answer when I was asked a question recently in an interview, because I find it difficult to find challenges having come this far in Krishna consciousness, because I don't see anything negative. It's difficult for me to find. When I'm asked questions like, what are the challenges you are going through? I can only see opportunities, because each and every challenges are opportunities for me to learn how to deepen my understanding in Krishna consciousness. I may not have gotten to the platform or to the position of Mother Kunti, who prays, let more and more challenges and difficulties come. But the reality is that in today's experience of my life, having come this far in Krishna consciousness, I hardly can find any challenges. It's difficult for me, because the moment anything is happening, sometimes I get emotional. It's not like I don't still get emotional. I get some emotional sometimes when I see something unpalatable. I get into a deep thoughts. But the reality is that at the end of my thinking, one thing that always falls upon me, based on what I read on a daily basis, is that these are situations that are brought before me, not something that probably I've done wrong now, but as a result of my previous karma, they have come. And what is Krishna wanting me to learn from this, so that I can grow above it and move forward? So children who are disobedient, who are whimsical, who are whatever name given to them, are not in themselves the challenge. How we respond to their misbehavior, to their disobedience, is what really matters. And so my response to your question is that how do we relate to these children and they're disrespecting even their father, disobeying their father, is that we should see all of this. Krishna, what are you wanting me to learn? How do you want me to respond to this in such a way that it will become a lesson? Because when we're discussing the scriptures, we're talking about Daksha, we're talking about Swayambhuva Manu. They are both children of Lord Brahma, but they acted in a particular way. The 4 Kumaras, they were children of Lord Brahmas. They act in a particular way, and their experiences of their life experience are lessons for us to learn. So, like Krishna Prabhupada will always tell us, Gurudev will always say, don't ever think that these things will not happen to you. Because we all must grow, and for us to grow, examinations must come. So sometimes these disobedient children are sometimes lessons that to teach us certain things to grow in our Krishna consciousness. Because we are living in an age, it is not accidental that we are born in Kali Yuga. Maybe if I wasn't due for this, I would have taken my last birth in Satya Yuga. But for the fact that I'm born in Kali Yuga means that I'm doomed to have children that maybe most likely will be disobedient or may not follow my Krishna conscious life or may not want to be what I want to be. I may have a wife who will not be what I want her to be. And sometimes also, we must understand also, even if when the children or the wife follow us 100%, it could be another form of Maya, distraction, because we start thinking ourselves to be successful. So in both ways, even if our wives follows us in Krishna consciousness, even if our children follow us 100% and they follow everything we do in Krishna consciousness, it could also be a pitfall for us. So as an individual, we must see each and every situation that comes before us, whether in the form of a child, a friend, wife, God brothers, God sisters, institutions, and every other of these things. Because Srila Prabhupada's movement was what it was in 1965, 1968. If it was what it was in 1968, the massive explosion of people joining the movement will have been our experience. But it is not what it is in 1968. It is not what it is in 1969 when Srila Prabhupada was physically present. So therefore, we have a decline in attracting people to join. But in the situation that is prevalent, what is my consciousness? What is my response? Gopal Prabhu will always say, there is a problem. Can you do something about it? Yes. Then do it. Why worry? There is a challenge. Can you do something about it? No. Then don't do anything. Still, why worry? So our worry should not be that somebody is following or not following. We're most primarily conscious about what am I doing in these circumstances? Am I in line with what Krishna expects me to do? Am I in line with what my Guru Maharaj wants me to do? Is this what my spiritual master will want me to do in this circumstance? Because every situation, Srila Prabhupada was giving in the lecture I was listening to, Srila Prabhupada was explaining that sometimes we are so carried away by illusion, and we are thinking this material world is a kind of a comfortable place, even in Satya Yuga. Because in the material world, the nature is that there's going to be always imbalance. And this imbalance in material world or material life will be sometimes in the form of our child. It will be in the form of our son. It will be in the form of our daughter. It will be in the form of our wife. It will be in the form of our friend. It will be in the form of our God brothers, our temple president, temple commander, our GBC, or whatever it is. Because Krishna will arrange everything so perfectly for us to be able to grow in Krishna consciousness. But how we use those opportunities to grow and navigate ourselves towards getting back to God is our responsibility. So in Kali Yuga, there are definitely going to be so many disobedient children because 99.9% of children born in Kali Yuga never go through samskara process. And so therefore you expected a unwanted progeny. But you, me, in our individual self, we have gotten opportunity to get this rare opportunity of life, to take to the path of Krishna consciousness. So how do we use the knowledge that we've acquired in navigating in the face of all of these situations to advance in Krishna consciousness? I think that is what, for me, is most important. I hope that helps in so that's the way I think. I'm sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. I was just doing some reference to Govinda Prabhu's question. And the most common thing most of us always hear is that the father should liberate the son. But the son liberating the father, oftentimes we don't hear that, but that is also there. So, in fact, we read that, we read that, but there is so much information. There is so much information, so sometimes we forget something.
Yeah.
Of course, it's Kali Yuga, like you said. So, Bhagavatam 2:7 and 9, Srila Prabhupada explains this. Long life, obedience, good reputation, righteousness, prospects of being promoted to higher planets, and blessings of great personalities are all vanquished simply by disobedience to a great soul. One should strictly try to follow in the footsteps of great souls. Maharajivina became a king undoubtedly due to his past deeds of righteousness, but because he willfully neglected the great souls, he was punished by the laws of all the above-mentioned acquisitions. In the Vamana Purana, the history of Maharajivina and his degradation are fully described. When Maharaj Prithu heard about the hellish condition of his father, Vina, who was suffering from leprosy in the family of Amblecha, he at once brought the former king to Kurukshetra for his purification, and he relieved him of all sufferings. So it says here, Maharaj Prithu, the incarnation of God, descended by the prayer of the Brahmins to rectify the disorders on earth. He produced all kinds of crops, but at the same time, he performed the duty of a son who delivers his father from hellish conditions. So just like Salika Prabhu was saying, the word putra means one who delivers from hell, called put. That is worthy son. So this is the responsibility and expectation of a son. Now let's go to the responsibility of father. Same canto, same chapter. We go to, this was 9, and then we go to 22. 22, it says, this is essential for all human beings, and it is the duty of the father, spiritual master, and ultimately the state to take up the responsibility of leading the citizens towards this end. What is this end? This end, Sri Prabhupada explained initially here, on this planet are factually the representatives of the Almighty Person of Godhead, and they are meant to lead the subjects towards the path of God realization. So, the whole creation of material existence is made for this purpose, just to give a chance to the fallen souls who rebelled against the will of the Supreme Father and thus became conditioned by material nature. So both the Father and the Son have responsibilities. So
Absolutely.
we should not,
Thank you
we
so
should
much
not
for
just
being
look
so
at just
transparent.
one side. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. But the fact is also that sometimes when we're discussing this, we should also understand that we are also a son.
Yes.
So, and that's where the topic of today resonates, because
even those who are father today, they are still sons.
they're also sons.
Yes.
So we are all sons. So therefore, we need to put, as we fulfilling the role of a son, and we take responsibility of the role of a father, but we also remember that we are also son of someone, and our duty is to be present.
Like you beautifully shared, we all know His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj.
Amazing.
He is a guru, but he is also a perfect disciple. You see, and Srila Prabhupada shared the same thing with us. He says, I'm a disciple of my spiritual master, and thank you all for helping me to serve my spiritual master. So thank you so much. And with that, I think we've come to the end of today's discussion, which, even though it was an impromptu, but it's become so beautiful, so much lessons to learn. And today being Friday, we're going to humbly request you all to unmute yourselves so we can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Great Salika Prabhu. But we also pray to the Parampara for their guidance and protection through the weekend, and bring us all back next week so we can have the opportunity to hear about the Supreme Lord and His pure devotees. And again, mind you, remember, Friday, next week, Friday, October 3rd, is a very special day of celebration on this same Sangha. So please, you may all kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chitanam Pavanivyo, Krishna Bhavyo, Namaha.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Jai.
Devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, devotees, we thank you all.
Hare Krishna.
And